Another load of wheat is pouring into the silo. The mill devours tons of the cereal every day. It never stops. The junior manager is in charge of the operation. This is where grain is ground into flour, a process that requires a lot of energy.
We pay €1 million a year for electricity.
With monster sieves like this, no wonder. They weigh approximately 3 tons. Tanker trucks transport the flour to the baking factories. The millers complain flour is a commodity that few fully appreciate.
People don't realize where flour comes from. When they think of grain mills, they think of old-fashioned mills. In fact, nowadays, the milling industry is technologically very advanced.
Annual revenue is approximately €80 million a year. There's been a mill in Flechtorfer since the Middle Ages. Despite the modern technology, traditional craftsmanship is also prized here.
We're very proud that we have our own professional greeting, which is good fortune. In the past, when journeyman millers arrived at a new mill, they would introduce themselves and say, "Good fortune, I'm a journeyman miller, regards from my previous master and his apprentices." That's why we have this slogan on display.
The Turnover family first arrived in Flechtorfer 77 years ago. Tradition means a lot to them.
We've been millers for generations. Originally, the family came from Königslütte. My father was the second son, so his older brother inherited the mill from their father and he had to make his own way. But he ended up being more successful than his older brother.
The little boy on the photo is Walter. Today, he's the boss. There was never any question that he too would grow up to be a miller. In turn, he expects his son to take over the business. Did you ever ask your son what he wanted to be?
I can't remember for sure. You'll have to ask him yourself.
You grow into it. I never asked myself if I wanted to be a miller. I'm an only child, so it was inevitable that this was what I would do. And I wouldn't have wanted to do anything else anyway.
These days, a miller also has to be a technician and a salesman. Grain prices can fluctuate dramatically, so it pays to have a head for business.
We put out options contracts for our grain a year in advance. If we don't hedge against currency fluctuations for raw materials, then things could get very ugly.
Have you ever suffered serious losses?
Absolutely. 6-figure sums are nothing. Even 7-figure sums are nothing unusual. As a mid-sized business, you have to be able to withstand all that.
Right now, the turnovers are increasingly packaging their product themselves and selling directly to the customers. But flour isn't an expensive commodity. In a budget supermarket, a kilo costs just 39 cents.
Flour is cheaper than it should be. It should be a lot more expensive. In Germany, food and flour cost less than they do elsewhere in Europe.
Germany is Europe's cheapest market.
That's why the millers now export 1/3 of what they produce and have also started diversifying. They hope baking mixes will boost profits. Pancake mix, for example, sells well in the Netherlands.
There's a big difference between a kilo of flour and a kilo of cake mix. The cake mix is quite a bit more profitable.
We can produce other products with our flour.
And that's exactly what they're doing. These days, baking mixes make up 1/4 of sales.